Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm 16 weeks pregnant. When I was pregnant with my first baby, Dominic, I was obsessed with pregnancy update videos, so I always thought it would be fun to do pregnancy update videos of my own. So here I am. A little bit late, but unfortunately during my first trimester, I really had no energy, so I just could not find the motivation to do any YouTube videos. But now that I'm in my second trimester, I have a lot more energy and more motivation. So I decided I would go ahead and give it a try. First, I'll talk about the symptoms that I've had pretty much from the beginning. The first few weeks, I really didn't have any symptoms, just felt pretty much like normal. Then about 6 weeks is when it really started. The very first symptom I had was maybe a week or two before that. But I would be walking up the stairs and just get lightheaded from it. So when you're pregnant, your body actually makes about 50% more blood. So your heart is working harder, and that's also part of the weight that you gain. But a common side effect for anyone who's pregnant is lightheadedness and getting out of breath easily, just because your heart and your body in general are working so much harder. So the first thing I noticed was getting lightheaded just from walking up a flight of stairs, which normally is perfectly fine. And then I get this throughout my pregnancy, but if I stand up too fast, especially off of the couch, I will get really lightheaded and dizzy and seeing stars. So I have to get up off of the couch really slowly, make sure the blood is going through my body properly. Sometimes I'll still get dizzy and then I have to sit back down or hold on to something. But I just have to be careful about it and conscious of it. Then the next symptom that I had was a heightened sense of smell. If you've never been pregnant before, it sounds kind of like a cool superpower, but it's mostly miserable. Obviously the good thing is you can smell things like, flowers or brownies better, but overall, I would open the cupboard to get a bottle out for my toddler, and I could smell the plastic. I could smell all the plastic bottles in the cupboard. I would load the dishwasher and I'd smell the dirty dishes. And it would go right to nausea. I've had some pretty big aversions from that. I had a huge coffee aversion that I still have some, but it's mostly gone away. And there were a couple weeks where I didn't drink any coffee at all. But for the most part, I've been able to drink a coffee once a week. I'll just get a Starbucks latte. I'll just get a latte, and it's not super coffee-y, so I can handle it. But the smell really gets me. I tried making it for my husband a few times, and the smell permeates the house, and it made me almost throw up. I didn't actually throw up, but I felt like I was going to have to. And it's on the subject of throwing up. I threw up twice. With my first pregnancy, I threw up 5 times mostly through my first trimester, and then a couple weeks into my second. But this time I felt way more nauseous and more fatigued, but I think because it's my second time around, I have a better idea of knowing my body, knowing when I need to eat, when I need to not eat, and knowing my food aversions and to just stay away from that, don't even think about it too hard. So I think that's why I haven't thrown up as much. But the 2 times I did throw up, one I think it was the first time I was brushing my teeth. And when I was brushing my teeth, that activated my gag reflex, which normally doesn't happen, but when I'm pregnant, it does. So it activated my gag reflex, and then my gag reflex just activated my throw up reflex. So it made me throw up. Luckily, it wasn't too bad. Mostly, I think it was just water pretty much. And then the second time I threw up was not very fun at all. I had eaten ice cream and angel food cake for dessert. And then I took my prenatal vitamin, and the prenatal vitamins, especially in the first trimester, they sit on your stomach really hard, kind of like a regular multivitamin can do that too. But it can be really bad for some people when they're pregnant. And my first trimester, especially, the prenatal vitamin would always make me nauseous. And I always take it in the evening. And now I'm really good at taking it within an hour or 2 of dinner. And that sits better with my stomach. But there were a few times I didn't take it till a few hours after dinner. And that just really made me sick. So I took it too late that day and I threw up all the dessert and it was disgusting. So for 3 weeks, I couldn't even think about eating ice cream, but I can eat it now. It's okay. So yeah, that was not very fun. But anyway, as far as the heightened sense of smell, I give it 2 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend. Okay, now I'll talk about my food aversions and cravings for a little bit. Food aversions, I've actually had more aversions this pregnancy than my first. My first pregnancy, I really only had two food aversions. That was fish and eggs. The fish, I could not smell, I could not eat my whole pregnancy. Eggs, first trimester, I couldn't cook them myself, I couldn't eat them, it was pretty bad. And then about maybe halfway through my pregnancy, so like halfway through the second trimester, I was able to eat them, but I still didn't love them. And I like the smell got kind of sulfury, but I was at least able to eat them toward the end of my pregnancy. I just couldn't cook them myself. I'd have someone else cook it. Now, as far as the eggs go, I can, I can make, I've made them for my toddler a few times. So I'm okay with the smell, but it's not like something that I know I'm going to enjoy. So I don't really cook it. A few times I've had like an egg sandwich, like from McDonald's or Starbucks or something, and I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. Fish, I haven't had as much of a problem with fish. I had a few bites. I don't like order it or cook it myself, but if my husband gets it, I'll have a couple bites of his and I'm okay. But I think just because I'm staying more away from it, for the most part, I'm not having a problem with it. I'm having a few more versions. The biggest and weirdest one is chicken. I realized, like the first couple weeks I was okay with chicken, but then I realized it was just, oh, it's disgusting. Like, especially a big chunk of chicken. It's the texture and the taste. I can't handle it right now. So I'm just, for the most part, staying away. I have had it a couple times where it's, if it's like cut up into something like barbecue chicken isn't so bad because the texture is masked. And I had fried chicken that was like breaded. It wasn't too bad. But just a big chunk of chicken, I can't do. So I'm not even cooking it at all right now. So basically I can eat, as far as protein, I can't eat eggs, fish, chicken. So I can basically eat red meat and pork. And even pork, if it's like a pork chop. I had grilled pork chops, that wasn't too bad, but just like a really meaty chunk of pork, I'm not really caring for. But yeah, steak, I love sausage. So we're mostly doing, oh, and I've had lamb once or twice. So pretty much red meat and pork is what I can eat as far as my protein right now. And I try to get my protein in other ways too. Like we eat a fair amount of beans. I eat lots of vegetables, fruit. I can eat all my regular fruit that I enjoy. So I'm eating lots of fruit, vegetables at dinner. I can definitely eat carbs. I'm trying to still, stay mostly healthy and mostly unprocessed foods. But I am eating a bit more carbs, like pasta, things like that, than normal, a little bit more bread. Just trying not to go crazy. I'm not really having a lot of cravings, just occasional. That's how it was with my first pregnancy too. With my first pregnancy, I would just all of a sudden have a craving for like a type of food. Like one time I really, really wanted Boston Market. And I was not happy until I had Boston Market. And then I was good. A couple times with Chipotle. This time I'm barely having cravings, but there was one that was really funny. We were watching my toddler was watching a cartoon, and in the cartoon they talked about making meatloaf, and I'm like, man, meatloaf sounds really good right now. Keep in mind, I hate meatloaf. I had never made it myself. I don't like just the idea of a big hunk of beef. I mean, I like meatballs, but just meatloaf I've never liked. So I had some meat in my refrigerator. I had some beef in my refrigerator. So I'm like, I'm gonna make meatloaf. So I made the meatloaf, and I made it from scratch. I made my own little glaze I think I had some leftover barbecue sauce. So that was homemade. So I made that into my glaze, and it was really good. I quite enjoyed that meatloaf. Also, in my first trimester, I had had a lot of just general fatigue and nausea, which is pretty common, definitely one of the most common side effects. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, I haven't really had any energy, or I didn't really have any energy in my first trimester, but right around my second trimester, like 13, 14 weeks, I still sometimes get tired, and I kind of pace myself and I don't do too much especially in one day, because I know that'll tire me out. But I definitely have a lot more energy and motivation. I wasn't able to work out at all my first trimester. Before I got pregnant, I was in really good shape. I had been going, now, and this is also before COVID too, but I had been going to the gym like 2 to 3 times a week, doing strength training classes. And I did strength training some at my house. I would go on walks a lot. And pretty much since COVID and my pregnancy, I haven't been able to do any of that. But I'll go on walks sometimes in the evening. It's pretty hot. It's been pretty hot for summer, so it's too hot to really do that during the day, but I've gone on some walks at night. But now that I have more energy, I've started doing some strength training. Nothing crazy because I don't want to, do too much. You also have to be really careful when you're pregnant because your body produces a hormone called relaxin, and it makes it so your body basically can stretch more because it's getting ready to have a baby. But if you stretch more than normal, you can then injure yourself. So you don't want to do, especially things like yoga or stretches that are more than you would normally do, because you can end up injuring yourself. So I've actually, right now, since I'm just trying to build my strength back up that I lost and atrophied, I've just been doing pretty basic strength training, but it's definitely helping. I'm doing a workout a few times a week, and I could definitely tell I'm already starting to get stronger. I've only been doing that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks now. And I go on walks too sometimes outside. I love going on walks when it's nice weather, and my toddler loves it. He loves going in his stroller and going on little stroller rides. So we like to do that as a family. I think I'll do another video about what my prenatal care looked like, since this one's getting a little long. So that's been pretty much all of my symptoms. If I think of any more, I'll mention them in another video. I'd like to do a few more videos kind of similar to this, and I would like to talk about what my care has looked like, how it's been a little bit different in a pandemic. If you guys have any questions about pregnancy or being pregnant in a pandemic, let me know in the comments below. If you're pregnant, let me know how far along you are and what symptoms you're having. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. And of course, I have to show you my bump. If you didn't know me, you might not necessarily tell that I'm pregnant, but it's definitely showing compared to what I normally look like. It's pretty funny because in the morning, it's almost flat, and then after I eat, especially dinner, it gets real big as my food baby and my baby merge together.